Ever since the 1970s, the BMW 3 Series has stuck with the same formula. Rear-wheel drive, engine up front, and weight distribution as close to 50-50 as possible. This meant that no matter what engine and trim you went with, you were always guaranteed one thing, that there was fun to be had behind the wheel. Over the years, that basic formula has stayed the same. However, technology does move on, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. This new 3 Series is, of course, now more advanced than ever. In fact, even this rather tame 320D uses mild hybrid technology. My question is, does it detract from the experience, or does it enhance what was an already very good car? Let's find out. My name's Tom, and you're watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. Before we start, please like, subscribe and hit the bell if you'd like us to keep bringing you this content. Also, don't forget to follow our socials for updates on our stock. Links in the description below. Now more about the powertrain, as it's actually pretty cool. Like the previous 320D, this one uses a very similar 2-litre diesel with the same 190 horsepower and 400 Nm of torque. However, that diesel engine is now aided by a 48-volt electric motor. This motor is responsible for not only starting the engine, but also giving you a very small amount of instant oomph when you need it. It only has 11 horsepower, but it's still instant, so theoretically it should smooth out the driving experience a fair bit. Does it add any noticeable performance on the 30 to 70 sprint though? Guess we better find out. Well, it's not night and day, but the difference is actually there. We managed 6.62 seconds, which is quicker than a previous gen BMW 420D Grand Coupe. And that car is actually lighter than this new 3 Series by 20 kilos, so the 48-volt motor must be doing something. For your run-of-the-mill diesel, some pretty impressive performance actually. Inside, BMW has made some very much needed design changes over the previous generation 3 Series. The previous car had a near perfect layout, but it lacked just a tad when it came to design. This one though, this one combines all the good stuff and just makes it look stunning to look at. Digital driver's displays, heads-up displays, ambient lighting and more just make this car a pleasure to look at. I don't even have to think about it. I can tell you right now, this is going to be the best this interior is ever going to be. You've got multiple ways to control the infotainment, climate controls aren't touchscreen only, but all the tech you want is still there. The screens aren't just slapped on the dash either, they're integrated and cohesive with the rest of the interior. It's going to be a sad day when all this goes touchscreen only. I mean, look at the facelifted version of this car. It's already got that giant slapdash display thing going on. Impressive, yes, but nowhere near as gracefully laid out in my opinion. Anyway, talking about impressive, let's look at the rear seats, as they absolutely blew me away. The driver's seat is in my position, and just look at how much room I have. It's comparable to cars in the segment above, like an Audi A6 or even a Mercedes E-Class. I'd be more than happy spending 3 hours back here, as the seats themselves are very comfortable as well. You even get your own zone of climate control, USB-C ports, and a perfectly designed armrest with cup holders that can be tucked away when you don't need them. Another bonus is that the rear window goes all the way down, which makes chundering out the back that much easier once the driver has had some fun on a B-road. This is hands down the best rear cabin I've experienced in this class of saloon car. Move to the boot and you've got the same 480 litres as the previous car, but with the ability to fold the seats down, I really don't think you're going to struggle moving things around. That is, of course, unless you're moving fridges and washing machines all the time. Right, enough faff, let's get on the road. Right, on the road then, and I am very excited for this review, as the previous BMW 320D was one of my favourite cars for like everyday driving. You know, it had economy, it had space for passengers, it was comfortable, yet it was still fun. So hopefully this is just an improvement on everything they've learnt from the previous generation. So far, interior is very nice. The walk around the car I did, I found out that there was loads of space for rear passengers, and everything is just so well put together in this car. This has the M Sport Pro pack, which means it's got everything in the Plus pack. So it's got like 19-inch wheels, the bigger brakes, lots of like Shadow Edition styling bits. but it also has adaptive dampers. So we're just starting in comfort at the minute, and so far it feels like a normal M Sport car, so slightly stiff, but it's not too stiff that it's uncomfortable. It's just letting you know that there's something sporty going on under the chassis. But steering is not super light, I would say. It's more direct. It's got positive steering, so it wants to turn into a corner, which all BMWs have, as they are like sporty at heart. And throttle pedal and brake pedal are easy to modulate. Because you've got those bigger brakes, they just give you that like extra bit of reassurance that the car is definitely going to stop. The only thing I'm not really liking so far is the slightly chunky steering wheel. It seems to have gotten even fatter than the previous generation. It's not the end of the world, but I would prefer something just very slightly skinnier. But already the steering is so direct. I mean, if you don't put your foot down in this, it feels like a proper M car already. It just feels so sporty behind the wheel. You know, it's only until you put your foot down and you realise it's a 2-litre diesel. It's amazing what they can do with what is effectively an almost base model engine. Now then, in terms of parking, this is still a fairly small car, so it should be fairly easy to park. Let's see if it's as easy as the old one. This car has a reverse camera. This also has park assist, so it will park the car for you in parallel bays. Unfortunately, in these types of bays it won't, but you've got plenty of steering lock, reverse camera, parking sensors all round, so parking is super duper easy. But say there's a space near you and there's not many other spaces to go at, so you go in here, but you have to go in forwards, and it's a tight space, so you think, oh dear, I can't remember how I got in here. Well, thankfully, BMW has got you covered with reverse assist. Hands aren't even touching the wheel. All you've got to do is modulate the brake pedal and the throttle pedal, and it will do everything else for you up to about 50 yards. And you might think it's a bit gimmicky, but if you're in a like a sort of tower car park, it does actually help quite a bit, because if you pull into a space forwards and you've done like a lot of manoeuvring and then someone else is parked right next to you that makes it very difficult to get out of the space in, you just let the car do its thing. Right, biggest change with this engine is that it's got the mild hybrid technology system now. So it's got a 48 volt motor with 11 horsepower that aids you sort of starting the engine and filling in that torque gap that's down low. So once this car goes past, I'll be able to demonstrate how that works. So you'll notice it starts the engine immediately. And for me, that makes a huge difference in how you pull away from junctions. So unfortunately, you can't turn the start-stop off, but it starts the engine so fast that you just don't notice it. And it means when you're on the motorway, it can save you quite a lot of fuel actually, because when you're coasting, it'll actually just turn the engine off. Right, let's reset our trip computer and see what MPG we can get on the motorway. BMW claim that this thing can do over 70 miles per gallon on the motorway. Hopefully there's not too much traffic today, because I want to see if I can actually get that figure. I think we'll probably do like 55, but I'm hoping we can get above 60 at least. Before we do that though, let's have a quick taste of the handling. Okay, let's get ourselves into sports. Gearbox into sports as well. This will hold on to gears longer and shift quicker. I've got it in sports individual because then I can change the dampers into their sportier setting as well. And this is making it feel like a Focus RS, so it's very, very stiff. Then we are going to go into traction sports as well. Let's see how this thing handles. Oh yes, it's still as good as the last one. In fact, it's slightly better. That 11 horsepower electric motor is actually giving me like that extra bit of shove in terms of torque to just get the back end out. Already I'm loving this. Right, before we do get carried away, let's go into Eco Pro, get the traction back on, and see if we can get to 71 miles per gallon. On our favourite motorway then, and I'm going to stick to around... He's lost the bag. Right, try again on the motorway then, and I'm going to stick to around 50 to 60 miles per hour to see if I can really get to that 70 miles per gallon figure. Ideally we can, although the M25 is quite busy today, so I'm just going to have to take it easy, I think. Already though, we're sitting at 52 miles per gallon, and we haven't even started our run, so it's already looking fairly good. Anyway, what's this 3 Series like? Is it better than the old one? Is it better than an Audi or a Mercedes? Well, I have to say, they've definitely done something in terms of sound deadening, because this is a little bit quieter than the old one. Road noise is definitely less perceptible, and wind noise is pretty much as zero so far, and it's a windy day today as well. The only thing I am noticing is that the suspension is still fairly busy, even in its comfort setting, which is unfortunate. I think for adaptive dampers it should have like a comfort plus setting, as for longer journeys you do want it to just be that extra bit more comfortable. Something like an Audi A4 is very slightly softer sprung, even their S-Line models. But what you can't fault in terms of comfort is seating position and the seats themselves. So BMW are always very good at getting the seating position right. This is even better than the last generation car. I don't know how they've done it, but you just get that much lower. You feel so cocooned inside the car. You feel like you're really connected to the wheels, the steering wheel. You're connected to everything. And it just makes you so much more confident behind the wheel. Then the seats themselves, they hug you just as much as you want them to. You've got adjustable bolsters, which is actually really rare in other manufacturers' cars. And it means if you're on a tight, twisty road, you can sort of firm them up, keep you in place. But if you're on a longer journey, you just slacken them off, and you can move around in your seat. Then of course you can adjust the pitch of the base. You can, you've got a bit for your thighs as well that comes out. And it just means doing longer journeys is very comfortable. I wish the suspension was a little bit softer. Then moving on to quality, this is where the G Series has really stepped up their game again. The F Series was pretty good, but it was a bit lackluster in terms of design, I thought, certainly compared to a Mercedes or an Audi at the time. But this, it has ambient lighting, you've got angular materials, you've got depth to the interior, but you've still got that really good build quality. You've got soft touch materials on the door cards, the dash, you've got lovely metal trim. In fact, it's actually quite hard to find any big pieces of plastic in this car. Another thing they've done really well on is their clicky buttons. In all my Audi reviews, I say they do one thing better than any other manufacturer, and that is simply clicky buttons. You know, it's like if you use a nice MacBook Pro versus a Lenovo ThinkPad. It makes a big difference in how enjoyable the device is to use. And whilst BMWs have always been really nice to drive, using their infotainment and just like buttons on the steering wheel, they all kind of felt a bit mushy and didn't really feel like you were actually pushing something with purpose. Whereas now, it feels like you are. Has this really nice clicky feel to it. And thankfully the rest of the interior feels really nice to the touch as well. Now then, wear and tear. This car is actually coming up to 3 years old now, and you wouldn't believe it, there is zero wear actually. I mean, the previous owner has obviously looked after it fairly well, but there's nothing, literally nothing to report on. I mean, you know, if you look after a car well, it'll last for like 5 to 6 years before you start to see any wear on the seat bolster or anything like that. But this car just has nothing. Everything still feels just as good as it did on day one, which is pretty surprising, even for a 3-year-old car. Then moving on to spec, if you had 3 choices, what should you get? Well, the first thing for me is simply going to be the M Sport Plus package, because that gives you pretty much everything you want. Gives you a nice exterior with like tinted glass, bigger brakes, 19-inch wheels, you get a nicer interior, everything just kind of looks like you're getting your money's worth. Plus it gives you that adaptive steering with M Sport suspension. which is definitely something you want because it just makes the car feel that much more sporty. Apologies for the sun visor, by the way. It's quite difficult to see with the sun's right in your eyes. Then the next thing I'd get for this particular car is actually their full driver assistance pack. That includes full lane assist and full adaptive cruise control. And for a car like this, I'm guessing you're going to be spending a lot of time on the motorway. So having something that just takes the strain out of driving is pretty handy in my mind. Without it though, you do get cruise control with brake assist. Now originally I thought the brake assist was, you know, that like emergency brake assist, but it's actually not. So if you change the speed on your cruise control down, it actually uses the rear brakes of the car to slow you down. So you can kind of drive just with the steering wheel, which is actually quite nice on a long motorway journey. But definitely try and go for that adaptive cruise control system if you can, because it does just make driving a lot more easy. Then finally, of course, it's going to be the Harman Kardon sound system. Base model sound system, totally fine in this. It gets the job done. Turn it all the way up. It's typical, like slightly mushy, but plenty of bass. Harman Kardon system gives you more volume, more clarity, more bass, and it just really ties the car together. It makes you feel, again, like your money has actually gone towards something. Plus getting a big subwoofer just makes a huge difference. You know, you just get a really rich sound then. Right, that is motorway section nearly done. A couple more miles to go, and we're sitting at 64.8 miles per gallon. Even for a diesel, that is, I mean, it's ludicrous. It's still going up as well. I'm using the cruise control as well, which is usually a slightly less efficient way of driving. But I'm gobsmacked. Even for a diesel, that is unbelievably efficient. Hopefully we can get to 70 miles per gallon. Alright then, motorway stint over, and I can't believe it. We are doing 68.6 miles per gallon. 69.2. That is the most I've ever seen out of any car I've ever driven on this channel. In fact, it's the most I've ever seen out of any car. I'm gobsmacked. 69.9. You know, over a long journey, yeah, you'll do over 70 miles per gallon in this thing. That's crazy. That's actually crazy. Out of a premium saloon. Like, this isn't some tiny little hatchback with like the aerodynamic efficiency of a Bullet. This is a normal BMW 3 Series. It's not a tiny engine, nothing super duper special, but my god, I cannot believe it is that efficient. So yeah, if you need a motorway cruiser, buy this. It's a fairly simple choice there. If you need something to do huge miles in, just buy a BMW 3 Series. I'm genuinely gobsmacked. I've never seen a figure that high before. Anyway, let's watch that figure drop and go and have some fun. Right then, we're in sports, we're going manual, and we've got sports traction on. Let's see what this new 3 Series is about. Plenty of punch. That mild hybrid system does an amazing job. Look at the front end grip as well. My goodness. So impressive. We're running on Pirelli P0s all round, so front grip is going to be good. But they just seem to make improvements time after time on this car. And the thing is, even though the 30 to 70 time isn't the fastest in the world, it feels very quick. Like, practically the car's very quick, especially for like a 320D. And it means you kind of actually need these brakes. And boy, are those brakes good. You get a lovely initial bite, and then they just seem to keep going. Like, the deeper you go into the pedal, the better they perform. And obviously they do, but I mean, it's like even more so than you expect it would. Don't really need to do a sound check. I guess that's the one disadvantage with a diesel. Look at that acceleration. The amount of torque you get from this thing is mad. car really communicates to you well. Steering is good. It's very assisted, but there's still plenty of feel. Like, you know what the car is doing. That's what I love about BMWs. You're never second guessing yourself. Right, I do need to see. Right, let's try in third gear this time. Got a bit more space. Oh, what a weapon! A 3 Series diesel can go sideways. I'm gonna have to tighten up my bolsters for this, I think. It's so agile, like just so darty, changes direction so quickly. This is the thing. This is why police officers use the 330D, because even though its straight line performance isn't the best in the world, still a fairly quick car, but you just keep up with everything because it's just so agile. It's just unbelievably fast around corners. Like, you're going 4-5 miles an hour quicker around this corner than you can in a GTI. And that's a dedicated hot hatch. This is just a base model 3 Series. Like, look at it around here. I mean, it just grips. It's absolutely insane. And there's not a single moment where you think, what's happening right now? You always know exactly what the car's doing. What a machine! What a machine! For what it is, it doesn't get better than that. If you want a saloon that's fun, this. There's nothing else. It's this or nothing. I mean, maybe an Alfa Romeo Giulia, but this is more reliable, it's got better tech, and realistically, it's cheaper for what you get. Right, let's take it to a Type B road and see what that's like. And down our favourite little road. And even though it's a diesel, it loves to rev out. So it gives you a bit of fun. God, the response from the engine is amazing as well. It is every bit of 190 horsepower. It does not feel slow at all. But look at that, third gear takes you all the way up to 60. We're going to have to go round again. So 0 to 60 is in about 6.5 seconds in this thing. I'm going to leave the gearbox in sports. Let's do a sort of launch. We'll be slightly easy on the gearbox. They've definitely calibrated this gearbox better as well. It's definitely a little bit sharper. Woohoo! I have to say, I think you should probably leave the suspension in its regular setting, because the sporty setting is very sporty. I mean, it's like track use only kind of setting. In fact, let's just relax for a moment. Go into vehicle settings. Actually, I think we can just change the drive mode. Let's get out of the way of this guy first, actually. So we go into sport, configure individual, damping. Let's put that back in comfort, I think. As my insides need a bit of a rest. For track use though, yeah, I mean, pretty decent. Right, let's see what the suspension's like now. Hopefully it's a bit calmer. I actually love the fact you can get the back end to come out on a 320D. And again, third gear is where it's at. It's just got all that punch. It's just so instantaneous. effortless power. Oh yes, this is where it's good. My goodness, it's so controlled. You place it exactly where you want it. Not a single hot hatch is going to get away from you down here, apart from something like maybe an RS3. Oh. It's one of those cars that makes you feel like you're dancing with it when you go into a corner. Do it right and it really does reward you. And do it wrong and it, you know, it will bite you back. Not enough to kill you, but it will bite you back. So yeah, if you need a car for the motorway that's fun, pick this. If you need a car for town that's fun, pick the Lexus. I mean, for me, it's as simple as that. Although, being a car fanatic, I'm leaning more towards this. I have to say, they have done an amazing job with this car. You got plenty of space for passengers. It's fun on a B road, even more so than the last car. It's efficient on the motorway by... I can't believe how efficient it is on a motorway. It's crazy efficient, like 70 miles per gallon out of a luxury sedan. Crazy. And yeah, just overall a brilliant car to drive. As always, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a like and why not subscribe? Because not only can you see more content like this, you can see everything we have for sale. My name's Tom and you've been watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.